All right, guys, expectations. What are they? How can we notice them? How can you use them in an appropriate fashion? Because society has a tendency to tell us that expectations are all bad, but I'm going to argue and make a case for why they are something that is actually kind of necessary and why and how you're able to use this in a positive fashion. So, to get started off, let's run through a quick scenario. Let's say that your significant other, I'm going to talk to the guy specifically because I resonate more with that. Let's say your girl is out of town, your significant other is out of town, and they're out of town for like a week or two. And, throughout that first week, let's say they're gone for 2 weeks, throughout that first week, you find yourself kind of missing that other person. You find yourself wanting their return, and you start having all these fantasies and these dreams and these expectations of how you're going to be greeted whenever they come back. Maybe you build up like this dream story in your mind of, well, whenever they come home, they're going to jump into my arms, they're going to throw the door open, we're going to be laughing, we're going to be smiling, we're going to hug, we're going to run upstairs, we're going to start doing kind of what adults do. Now, this story that you've just created, you almost identify with it. You start creating it and playing it over and over and over, almost like a YouTube video that you can't stop watching, because there's this either dopamine or comforting release that you find within yourself that encourages you to keep releasing this video and to keep playing it in your head and keep moving forward with it. Okay, so you sorry about that noise, let's mute that. So you've created this story within your head and you're playing it over and over. So you've been doing this for several days, so now you're up to a couple hundred times maybe that you've played this out in your head, this expectation. Of course, you've never told this to your significant other, you just expect it. So they get home from their trip and you hear them knock at the door, you come to it, and you're just ready for them to embrace you, but they're sluggish, they're dismotivated, they're just hi, very short. This instantly is going to cause a negative reaction within you. You're instantly going to be angry at this person for not fulfilling an expectation that you set within your own brain, within your own head. You made this expectation, you made this thing into a reality where it's, here's what I'm going to do, here's how it's going to play out. And you didn't bring the other person in on this expectation. So now what happens is that you get angry. You're mad. You're mad at your significant other. You're mad at this girl for not approaching and coming into your house the way that you wanted them to. And so what occurs is that likely this person has other stuff, has other stuff going on in their life that they haven't brought you into yet. And they were hoping, maybe they had their own expectations of wanting you to be there to be able to have a safe space, let's say, to have you listen to what the problems they're going through. But now they can't do that. Now they're in a place of judgment and anger and fear, and it's only going to add more stress to them. And so that's going to cause a negative reaction in them where they're going to lash out at you. And so this creates this vicious cycle based on this expectation. So this whole story kind of encapsulates an unhealthy and an uncommunicated expectation, which is what I believe that we normally think of when we hear, oh, I never have expectations for people. Oh, I know better than to expect things from others. And I think that this is a valid argument. I think that it is very valid to go to this place of, I'm no longer expecting things of others. I don't want to expect things because then you're going to get let down. It's a very logical and safe way to kind of view the world. What I would argue, though, is usually these expectations of being let down are uncommunicated feelings or uncommunicated ability to converse. So now what we can do is move forward and move past this into a healthy version of expectations. So let me lay out another example for you, right? If you, and this might be a little bit silly, but if you get into a serious relationship with a significant other, what's going to happen? You automatically, and I can't say this for everyone, but majority of people assume that if I say you're my boyfriend and you're my girlfriend and you're my boyfriend, geez, there's an expectation there that we're not going to hook up or do anything with other people. Okay. And that is a uncommunicated, usually, expectation. Now, there's a lot of gray zone in here, right? Like, is holding hands, a form of, is that betraying your trust? Obviously, I guess we can say kissing is, but maybe the other person, there's cultures out there that kiss and it's not a big deal. So there's becomes these uncommunicated expectations. So I would even argue to create a healthy expectation, excuse me, is that you have these conversations with people. You go and you say to them, like, if you're getting into relationships, what expectations do you have of them to be in that relationship with you? It could be anything from, like, I expect you to greet me at the door. I expect you to, I don't know, sexually fulfill me. To be single with just me. Like, we're only going to be doing this, me and you. And my point here is that this is where a healthy expectation can form, because now you're communicating it with the other person. And maybe you communicate it and they have pushback on it. Like, I don't want you to kiss anybody. Well, they say, well, I kiss my friends. It's like, is that okay? It's like, and that's where the dialogue comes into play. This is how you're able to approach the problems and handle the problems before they occur. It's really an ingenious way of insight. Um, and I think that this is really something that you can put into any form of your life. I mean, you can have expectations of friends that, you know, you expect them to be there for you if you're down. And the fact that we're social creatures, a lot of our language has been developed before we could even speak. It's body language, it's eyesight, it's communication. So then we create these assumptions kind of associated with the expectations, and that's what we create assumptions, and that kind of forms our expectations. So, what I believe is the healthy way to approach is once you have an assumption, validate that assumption with another person. And listen, this takes a level of vulnerability, being honest with yourself, being honest with the other person, and quite frankly, being okay if they say no. Like, I respect that that's an expectation of you, but I'm not in a position to fulfill that for you. And that's fine. It prevents you from getting hurt in the long run, which is quite crazy. We will do things, especially with assumptions and expectations, in the immediate time because we want to kind of, I don't want to say push them away, but we want to be in a situation where we can be safe and not hurt people. And we push the can down the road. And in the long run, it hurts us more and it hurts them more. And a really good show that actually demonstrate this is How I Met Your Mother. And quite frankly, I think there's probably a lot of shows, but that's the first one that comes to mind, where something bad happens, or someone does something or wears something that's like ridiculous and nobody says anything, or they start doing something that they don't normally do, and everybody lets it keep just going without saying their truth, without speaking their truth about it, and eventually they end up doing something so ridiculous that it embarrasses them, but yet it could have very easily been handled by having open and honest communication at the beginning. And so now at this point, I think we might be diving a little bit into other material, but I think this is also holds true for expectations. The instant you have an assumption or expect something for someone, communicate that. And I think at the end of the day, that's really what's going to get you the most out of life and the most out of your relationships. So, with that being said, thanks for watching. Comment below if there's some sort of expectation or assumption, or if there's some gray area in between there. I'd love to address it, like having conversations about this. Other than that, thanks for listening. Like, share, comment, subscribe. All that stuff helps with the algorithm. Let's get this to more people, and let's awaken. Let's grow together.